I had several roles which kept changing as things would happen with the restructuring and all those kinds of things. My main responsibility that I had been recruited to do in the World Council of Churches, by the way, I was recruited by an Orthodox famous, he was called Father Paul Verghese. He was a well-known Orthodox, came from India to join the World Council of Churches, to a department at that time, as we often say, that had the longest name. It was the Department of Cooperation between Women and Men in Family, Church and Society. Okay. I remember the World Council of Churches itself looking at the leadership already of women within the ecumenical movement already in the 70s and the 80s. Now that was something unusual because in a number of other institutions, the women were not in the leadership. But in our Central Committee, which in the World Council of Churches is a very important institution, a body, to have women in the Central Committee, not only just as members, but to lead. A small debate on the change of chairman in the World Council of Churches. It was always the chairman of Central Committee. The debate, which is amazing, which I hope somebody who is researching will look it up in the minutes. We fought so hard for the use of the word moderator. It almost looked, when I look at it now, it was just so funny because I had to lobby men in the executive committee because I realized, and it was interesting, there were two women at that time who didn't like the idea of changing to moderatorship, and the suggestion of using the word moderator also came from a bishop, a male bishop, who said, and because some women said, we don't like to be called chairman when we are presiding, because we had already won a war of having a woman to preside over a meeting of the World Council of Churches. You know, I was assisted in my growth and search, like all of us, exposure, by World Council of Churches on thinking about church and society. When I came to Geneva, it was at the time when that was the most current, before racism took over in the World Council of Churches. The program to combat racism almost took over at the time when church and society in the 60s, that's my generation, late 60s, and then after that, the next big bomb was then the racism, and then there were, after it had been refugees. You know, those were the things that were very much concerns at the time in the ecumenical movement. I think the women of the 21st century should not talk from a position of powerlessness, not from a position of begging for space of our recognition as full human beings. We have allowed ourselves, I belong to that generation, to be patronized. Oh, shame, poor women. In discussions, can we include a woman in the committee? Theology. What a pity that we still talk of wars in the 21st century. The fear of destruction of each other, the fear of war, the fear of other human beings. Isn't it a shame that the people we fear most, the things we fear most in this century is destruction of each other by one another. I don't know how you say those things. I wish I could say it differently, but I think it's where faith and order show me to be. What is that? What are the emerging social, political, ethical issues of today? That's where faith and order needs to be, in order that the message goes to the people of God in a form and shape in which we understand. And so that faith and order doesn't become a club of clever theologians. I'm not saying it in a cynical way, yes, but it has to be a club of thinkers. It has to be the club of people who are helping to reflect, to think, to write, with the intentions, that's the difference, of making a change and transform the world.